These sources said, yes, the investigations will continue. There's a lot of evidence, and barring some obstruction in some way, they believe they'll continue to likely an indictment.
Wow. Wow.
It will be a constitutional crisis. You knew Richard Nixon personally and well. Yep. This will be beyond anything that ever happened in Watergate. It will paralyze this country until she's removed from office.
First of all, nobody died in Watergate and nobody made a red cent.
I'm telling you, when you start throwing around possibilities of 5 to 10 years in federal prison for federal conspiracy, perhaps, as Newt said earlier, RICO violations, false statements, perjury under oath, destruction of federal documents, people are going to start believing it's time to save themselves.
Here's the deal. We talked to two separate sources with intimate knowledge of what's going on with these FBI investigations. A couple of things. One, the Clinton Foundation investigation is far more expansive than anybody has reported, I think, so far.
Yeah, because remember, Comey last July basically wouldn't comment on it, and we kind of believed for a long time there wasn't much of a Clinton.
Right, and that was basically about Washington's influence in that. Several offices separately were doing their own investigations. That's one. Two, remember the immunity deal that supposedly Cheryl Mills and Heather Samuelson, two top aides for Hillary Clinton, got from the Justice Department, in which it was believed that the laptops that they had, after a narrow review for classification emails, were going to be destroyed by the FBI. We have been told that those definitively have not been destroyed. They are at the FBI field office here in Washington and are being exploited. Three, the Clinton Foundation investigation is so expansive, they have interviewed and re-interviewed many people. They describe the evidence that they have as, quote, a lot of it, and there is an avalanche coming every day with WikiLeaks and the new emails. They are, quote, actively and aggressively pursuing this case. Remember, the Foundation case is about the pay for play, the allegations of Secretary Clinton.
Yeah, people made contributions to the Clinton Foundation, and because of that, they were able to extract attention, at least, and if not more, from the State Department. If I have that right?
Exactly. So they are taking the new information, and some of them are going back to interview people for the third time. As opposed to what has been written about the Clinton Foundation investigation, it is expansive.
Is that story true?
Absolutely not. It's an unsourced, irresponsible, claim that has no basis, and it is something that really is without merit and should not have any influence whatsoever in this nominating process.
The classified investigation is being run by the National Security Division of the FBI. They are currently, as Catherine Herridge has reported, combing through Anthony Weiner's laptop, and they are having some success, in other words, finding what they believe to be new emails, not duplicates, that have been transported, if you will, emailed through the server, Hillary Clinton's server. Lastly, we learned that there is a confidence from these sources that her server had been hacked, and that it was about a 99% accuracy, that it had been hacked by at least 5 foreign intelligence agencies, and they believe that things had been taken from that.
It sounds to me, Brett, as if what we have here is a much bigger investigation than we thought.
It's time for a grand jury. It's time for Loretta Lynch to allow Comey and the FBI to get this evidence before a grand jury.
Here's the important thing that sometimes people miss. President Obama's BlackBerry is a high-security BlackBerry, and every address, we talked about this last week, every address has to be clear. It's like a VIP list. And Huma Abedin, in her FBI interview, said to agents, every time Mrs. Clinton changed her address, I had to tell the White House to make sure that his devices would accept it. So this is another admission that the White House understood that she was using this private server for government business, and that the president was okay with it, and his team was okay with it, because they were allowing updates to the email to be made. So he's got a real horse in the race here. He's not speaking as a dispassionate observer to what's happening.
And thanks, Megan. A major Fox News alert, explosive new details about the FBI investigations into the Clinton Foundation and Hillary Clinton's private email server that could now dramatically alter the outcome of the election. I honestly believe between that and the Wall Street Journal report tonight that the odds of Hillary Clinton being indicted are massive. What we now know is this is a long, ongoing investigation into the things that we have been talking about, and that's the pay-to-play practices at the Clinton Foundation. If you go back, maybe less than a year ago, James Comey wouldn't confirm or deny that that was happening. We now have learned the Clinton, go back to the previous one. If you guys can go back to the previous page, we now learn the Clinton Foundation probe has now taken a very high priority. In other words, that would go into the Uranium One deal, that would go into the Morocco deal, that would go into the list that was made up of Clinton Foundation donors and friends of Bill that would have first shot at Haiti relief money. We know that agents have interviewed and re-interviewed multiple people in this case about the foundation, and we also have, as part of it, that the sources say there's an avalanche of new information coming in every day. And the FBI is reviewing statements from Clinton and top aides, and sources say the investigations will continue no matter what the outcome of the election happens to be. Agents investigating would likely continue to push and try to get an indictment. Yep. Brett Baer reported that tonight. The FBI has not destroyed the laptops of two Clinton aides, Cheryl Mills and another woman, and aides' laptops are now being looked into or exploited by the FBI. Now, here's another interesting part. Sources are now saying that 99% chance exists that foreign intelligence agencies did access Clinton's private email server, which was the very danger we've been talking about from the beginning. You couple this with WikiLeaks and their revelations, you know, they now show a finding of intent, meaning conspiracy to commit a crime. And officials have high confidence in what the agents have found about the foundation, meaning they think they've got the information for a prosecution. Let's go to the Wall Street Journal. We just had it up there for a second because they were reporting tonight that secret recordings of a suspect talking about the Clinton Foundation fueled an internal battle between the FBI agents who wanted to pursue the case and corruption. And then that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about this guy, Peter Kadzak, that's friends with John Podesta. And prosecutors who viewed the statements as worthless hearsay, people familiar with the matter said the agents using informants and recordings from unrelated corruption. Now, you know, I can go on, Laura, but I don't want to take up the whole hour.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, I'll tell you this. I was a white-collar criminal defense litigator in my old days as a lawyer, and I'll tell you this. When you have an investigator, a federal investigator, going back to re-interview witnesses, they're only doing so because of new information and new evidence that they've gathered. And that is indeed what's happened here. So whether we're talking about Cheryl Mills or some of the other top officials at the State Department, they gave various interviews to federal investigators, had conditional immunity. It's a limited immunity. And now if through WikiLeaks and other documents that apparently are coming into the FBI and other information that's coming into the FBI, again, we don't know who's cooperating with them now, Sean. I think we have to remember that. There are people who are freaking out right now who are connected to this thinking, oh my God, I never signed up to do time for the Clintons. I'm gonna save myself. When you get into that mode of people saying, I'm gonna save myself, that's when it gets really dodgy for the principal players.
Let me ask you as a lawyer.
We're talking Huma Abedin and Hillary Clinton and other top officials at state. So that's when the legal jeopardy for Hillary is growing by the day, if this is the type of intensity that this investigation is gathering.
Huma Abedin signed a separation agreement, and she said and promised that she, barring jail here, that she had turned over all classified materials. Every single instance that there's a classified piece of material on that computer, she's facing jail time. Now, are those people going to stand up and lie for Hillary and go to jail for her? Okay. Now, there's, as Brett reported, an avalanche of evidence on the Clinton Foundation investigation, and barring, quote, obstruction in some way, agents investigating would likely continue to push for an indictment. let's move over to another issue that we got revealed today. That is the FBI agents. They're making their case about the Clinton Foundation probe, but it's the Justice Department that's throwing up walls and obstacles. And then you've got this guy, Kadzik, the best friend of John Podesta. And we've got information that the Justice Department, as well as the State Department, were tipping off the Clinton campaign, kind of like CNN giving her the questions ahead of time. They cheated everything, apparently. How important is that now the FBI, or at least agents, are clearly leaking this information because they feel an injustice has been done?
Yeah, they don't trust the higher-ups at the Justice Department, which is why they're going to this extreme, Sean, at the FBI. They've been stonewalled, it looks like, from the reporting tonight on Fox News. They've been stonewalled along the way by DOJ, by Loretta Lynch, who you would imagine is probably consulting with someone in the White House. And this thing is being stonewalled.
The good thing is that these FBI agents who swear to protect this country and to uphold the law cannot sit down and put their heads down and shut up. This is what the corrupt people want to happen. They're not swamp creatures. And that means that there is hope for us. I've encountered so many people who are just discouraged, and they say the whole thing is just a mess and we're lost. But we're not lost as long as we have people like that. And I do believe that there will be people who are out to save their own skins. This is all going to come out because Hillary knew that if she erased those emails and asset watched them, that would come into question and that she would be criticized for that. But she also knew that what was on those emails was even worse than any criticism she would get.
The stench of corruption is overwhelming. And
What do you think, Dr.
even
Carson?
Democrats have to think about that.
I don't think they want the first female president to be convicted and carted off to jail either. But the American people are wise. And Thomas Jefferson said that we would come to this point.
And Thomas Jefferson said that we would reach this point because we the people would not be paying attention, and it would allow the government to grow, to expand, and to metastasize, and to try to rule us. But he said, before we turn into something else, we the people would recognize what was going on, what we were about to lose, and we would rise up and we would take control of our nation. And I say now is the time.
It is going to happen. I predict it right now.
And Sean, this explains why all of a sudden this case was reopened. Yeah, I get the Uma Abedin, the Weiner part of it, but this thing has been going on for the whole year. And the FBI, there is a mutiny in the FBI. That's why all this stuff is coming out. There are 4 offices that continue to investigate, although Justice has tried to shut this down, saying there's not enough evidence. This recording from this other person, who apparently is an informant, is hearsay. This woman should have been indicted a year ago. A simpleton could figure out that she would make a deal with a particular country. The money goes into the foundation. Bill makes a speech, and then they get the benefit. This is classic RICO corruption.
I think what you're seeing now developing is the FBI's revenge. Because what
you
we
mean
now
the agent's revenge?
The rank and file who have worked so hard on this case, this is their revenge, and the timing is not a coincidence here. All of this conversation that we've been having about the classified emails and the classified material, very important, but that ultimately is the shiny object distracting everybody. The Motherload is the Clinton Foundation investigation,
That's
which we just had confirmed
Follow the
today.
money.
But the bigger point that the American people need to know before Tuesday is that she leveraged her public office to enrich herself, her husband, and their foundation.
All right, but enemies of America,
Yeah.
that 5 of them have accessed and taken the emails, which number 1 would make her a compromised president, potentially subject to blackmail.
Clearly subject to extortion,
and put
blackmail.
maybe methods and personnel in jeopardy.
And not only that, she has sold America's national security for money. These people are grifters. They've been grifters since they came on the scene. And she knew that when she set up that server that it wasn't secure. She did it for money. She did it to enrich themselves. She didn't care about our security. And Uma Abedin, I don't know who she and Weiner are connecting with, but these are people who do do not have our interest at heart. And if the American people have any common sense, they will understand that this family has been corrupt since they came on the scene.
This is the Lucchese, Bonanno.
This is a crime family.
This is the Gambino Clinton crime family.
It's actually worse because they weren't seeking the presidency of the United States. When you talk about at least 5 foreign actors, we can assume they're hostile. We can assume Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, maybe somebody else with the capability to do this. And based on this knowledge,
maybe ISIS?
Mrs. Clinton, or the Islamic State, Mrs. Clinton should have her top secret security clearance revoked tonight. The American people have put up with 30 years of Clinton corruption. I think this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, where they finally say, I cannot do this. We can't take it anymore. We can't take this anymore.
Let me say something in the interest of factual accuracy. We don't know that the Russian government is behind these leaks. We just don't know that. And there are some people who allege it. Obviously, the Clinton campaign has an interest in alleging that. But as a factual matter, that is not known.
Does the American intelligence community have
that is not, that the Russian government, no, that is not a certainty, and we are betraying our journalistic charge by presenting it as one when it is not. We don't know that the government of Vladimir Putin is behind this. We just don't. I mean, is it some Russian teenager in Moldova doing this? I mean, we just don't know the answer. I'll tell you what we do know is that as journalists, we're assessed with the accuracy. Is it true or not? And not one document produced by WikiLeaks over the past 8 years has been proven untrue. So why is our speculation about Russia more important than that fact?